at our favorite Saturday morning TV show from the 90s, Saved by the Bell. And while we all loved the show, there was all kinds of drama behind the scenes, as we know because Dustin Diamond wrote his book Behind the Bell. And now Lifetime took Screech's story and put it on the screen so everybody could know all the dirty details of our favorite show. Time in. The movie starts with Zach doing his typical time in, but that's when he's pushed aside by Screech, because this is Screech's story. He wants you to feel bad for him. The whole movie is really about how hard things were for Screech and how bad the other kids were. And he wants you to feel like he was a victim. He had a mean dad, Eric the Extra, who took advantage of him and made him drink vodka out of a flask and smoke pot on camera. And the Screech narrator shows us how smart Dustin Diamond was by asking Mark Paul Gosselaar to read over lines with him before their audition. Like he was the reason they both got cast. It certainly wasn't because Mark Paul Gosselaar was adorable and that Dustin Diamond looked like a nerd. Dustin also pulls at our heartstrings by making us feel like he and Mark Paul were going to be best friends, and then he just dumps him for the cool kids. Everything was truly awful, except for all the money he made and the fact that his first kiss was Tori Spelling. She played a nerd on the show too, and she turned out okay. And just like any Lifetime movie, there were plenty of quotes that Lifetime assumes that people probably actually said behind the scenes, and those were the best. At one point, Screech goes in to talk to the head of NBC and laments how nerdy Screech's character is, and why does he have to be so uncool? And that's when the NBC exec gives him some deep thoughts. Every one of us has a little geek inside of us, some of us more than others. Wonder who he's talking about there. And of course, Mark Paul is in a love triangle with Tiffany, Amber, and Lark. Of course, his real relationship ends up being with Tiffany Amber because they both have two names. And when Lark confronts him about being in Teen Beat and hanging out too much with Tiffany Amber, he tells her, "I don't know what we are." Those words are the kiss of death, ladies. If you ever hear those, run away. Apparently, Elizabeth Berkley really wanted to make the show serious, and we all remember her big drug scene where she gets addicted to pills. And that scene had some of my favorite Lifetime made-up pretend quotes. She goes and tells her co-star, "Look, we did it! Look, Jessie's addicted to pills! Isn't that great? I wonder if I should talk to an addict." And apparently off camera, Dustin didn't take this scene seriously enough, and he said, "It's caffeine pills. It's not like she's addicted to heroin." And there were lots of things in this unauthorized biopic that weren't really a surprise, like Mark Paul being the favorite of all the teen girls, Tiffany Amber and Elizabeth were friends, and that Mario Lopez was a total ladies' man. But the biggest shock of the night to me was that Mark Paul dyes his hair. His mom is half Indonesian. He was actually touching up his roots before the show went on. And at the very end of the show, as they're showing all the kids and recapping what we just watched for the past 2 hours, Screech comes in and says, "I guess some part of me will always be Screech, and I'm okay with that." Well, that's what we were hoping for, Dustin. Time in.